welcome everybody to the April 30th Community Preservation Committee meeting. In accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, which extends the Governor's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, until June 30th, 2027, this meeting will be conducted both in person and virtually via Google Meet. We'll be doing any voting tonight will be done by roll call because we've got 3 members online and 2 here in the room. To join the meeting online, meet.google.com/BER-BBBQ-AZD. To join the meeting by phone, call 443-892-3236 with a PIN of 810-581-775#. Is that?
Sorry, that was my radio.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm going to turn my microphone off. Hopefully you can you still hear me? I don't know if they'll pick me up on yours to try to, but let me put it back on. Okay, with that, I'll accept the motion to open the meeting. Larice? Yeah. Larice made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dwight. Okay. We'll do a roll call vote. Larice?
Yes.
Dwight?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so the meeting is open. First up on our agenda tonight is an update on the Halloran Multi-Sport Arena. If Matt can sit at the table, introduce himself, and
Sit closer to the laptop?
either, I think you'll be okay, but you can sit closer if you,
Is that the mic?
I guess, is that the mic?
That's one of the
One of
mics.
the mics.
If anybody can hear Matt, let us know.
Alright, Matt Koshan, Recreation Director. So since we last met, which I believe was before special town meeting, I'll start there. So obviously it passed special town meeting. And so since then, right after it passed special town meeting, we obviously had it out to bid contingent on approval special town meeting. So we already had the vendor RAD lined up. So the next day we were able to call them and lock in that bid.
Hang on a second, Matt. John?
John, are you having trouble hearing? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, Matt, why don't we,
I think
yeah?
I can hear it.
Okay, well, we'll get closer to the mic. Thank you for letting us know that, John.
We then, a week or two after special town meeting, had a sit-down meeting with 2 project managers from RAD, along with members from the town engineering department, procurement department, fire department, and DPW. Over the winter time, we signed contracts. We signed off on submittals for drainage, hoops, the post-tension slab. Around late February, DPW was able to dismantle the site, which saved the community a lot of money. Last week, the construction fence was put up by RAD. Either tomorrow or Friday, the foreman from RAD, they're supposed to be out there with the crew to start groundwork. And the project is still projected to be completed by the end of June. I have been in contact with the project manager from RAD, Samantha Fallon, at least once a week since mid-February, just going over details, signing off on submittals, and I will give her credit. She has been very communicative. She did say once everything is delivered to the site, like I was saying before, the basketball hoops are still being manufactured, so once they get to the site, then they can really start pouring, and she did say once everything does get to the site, it's going to move very, very quickly. So we are excited about that. One of the things I brought to Larice's and Barry's attention is the project manager, Sam Fallon, did recommend a different type of acrylic surfacing than a normal one that we're going to basketball court. This is called like a Skate Master surfacing. It holds up from their viewpoint, holds up a lot better with inline skating, whether you're looking at a surface that might have rollerblading, skateboarding, biking, any heavy use areas. It's a better surfacing that will hold up. It is a $5,000 difference, but I was interested by it as it would preserve the surfacing. It would better hold up the surfacing and probably save the community money in the long run on any maintenance costs for a $5,000 change up front. So we have not confirmed that yet.
Matt, what's the name of the project manager again? From
Samantha Fallon.
Fallon?
You got it. Other than that, that is all I have. So the project's moving along, and you should see a lot of work out there come the next couple weeks.
John, you still have trouble hearing? Your hand is up.
Yeah, you know, I like that idea of the coding, but is this just something that just came up?
She recommended
Does
it.
it make the surface more slippery?
No,
I couldn't hear.
doesn't make it more slippery.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't make it more slippery. It would. It's actually recommended for like any like street hockey or inline skating type surfacing or any heavy use surface.
Thank you.
I think you had mentioned that because it's open to the public, it's
Yeah.
expected to get more wear
Right.
than,
Yeah, that's another good point that Barry brought up that I had. Obviously, this being at a public park, we'll have signs up like what can and cannot go on the court, but a lot of stuff, anything happens down at public park. So this is just another way to protect that surfacing and protect the town's investment and probably have a lower maintenance cost in the future. Similarly, why we're going with the post-tension concrete as well.
I think that makes sense. Do we need to approve that? Barry, do you think we should take a vote?
yeah, I think we should. There were two things, right? There was that and there were
Yeah.
cameras, right?
The other thing, and again, it's just something we're looking into. Obviously, the main priority is to finish this this project as we had forth with the court and everything like that. And then I did reach out to Barry about the probability of us looking into security cameras if there is some money left over. This kind of came up. Trish has been really forthcoming the last couple of days or the last couple of weeks with looking at all the areas in town that need updating security cameras. We are going forward most likely with some security camera upgrades at Halloran Park, not having to do with the basketball court. They're going to be separate. But that kind of came up with, hey, should we then look at something over by the basketball court? Which I think would be pretty smart to do. Whether it would come out of this project or whether it would be another way, we would, if not, we would go a different route of funding it.
I looked up what the original motions were for the funding. And I think they fit within, while I'm thinking of it, let me bring those up again if I can. Because I think that would make sense if we're going to approve it, to know whether it's within the scope of the motions that were approved.
And I will say too, again, this is something like I met with the project manager from New Era who does all the cameras in town today with 2 members of the police department and IT department. This is something where it might come out to where it might be too difficult to do with the running electricity to where we need it in the cameras. So
For the cameras.
yeah, it might not happen. It's kind of something we're looking at like, hey, if this is possible, if there is money, then we can do it. If not, the town will look at other ways to get it done eventually. It would just probably take longer.
All right, let me just see if I can find the original article that was approved in 2022. Here we go. And I think if I get it up on my computer, I can
Share it.
share it. Oh, you got it. Okay, great. I found it on my computer, so I can share it.
Good job having it handy.
How to do it.
Good job having it handy.
Really.
That's why you print everything out, right?
That's right.
Yeah, but that's from a couple of years ago. This is not necessarily what we were,
She's talented.
she's got it in her.
Okay, can people see that?
Yeah,
Okay.
can I read it? No, but I can see it.
Well, I can make it larger.
Yeah. We missed the big board
I
here.
know.
And then,
Thanks, Liz.
you know,
So to me, it's general in terms of purchase and installation of equipment regarding the Halloran multi-sport court, so that covers a lot of ground.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't think we're pushing the envelope here.
No, I
I think
don't
that
either.
fits well within, and as long as we're within the budget, I certainly would support both the coding and the cameras.
All right, so
So,
we'll have
any
a vote.
comments from the committee? Any concerns?
I make a motion for it.
Okay, do we have,
Do we need to vote?
Yeah, I think we.
do we have a second?
I'll second.
Larisse will second it. Any discussion, further discussion?
Yeah, so in terms of the cost, we're assuming this can be done within the cost.
It has to be within the cost, yes.
Yeah,
So the surfacing's $5,000.
Yeah, so we know that'll fit.
The cameras we're still working on. If it doesn't fit, we'll find another means to do it. And we're
Or
gonna
money
make
to supplement it, to make
yeah,
up the
or
difference.
money to supplement. Yeah, my main priority is like let's get the project done as it was, and then if there was some money, just because it could speed up the process of getting these cameras instead of waiting a couple years.
Yeah, so I think from our perspective, Dwight, we're still within the 300,000 estimated cost.
well, it's 300,000 plus the supplement. It's 464.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Probably appropriate as John said, okay, if we did, that's within the scope of what we approved. That could be in the scope.
You okay with that, Barry?
Can't hear 'em.
Yeah, hang on a minute.
Yeah,
I'm
give
I'm
Barry a
still
second
writing.
As
to
long
make
as
a
it
note.
doesn't go over.
Yeah, it's 300 plus the extra
Right.
money from the supplemental.
Okay, so the motion is to allow both the acrylic surface and the camera setup as being within the scope of the project as approved by town meeting.
Yes.
All right.
Okay,
And I think it's John's motion, is it not?
John's motion, Larisse seconded it. So unless there's additional discussion items, I'll take a vote. John?
Yes.
Larisse?
Yes,
Dawn?
Yes.
Dwight?
Yes.
Olabumney, who joined, I'm sure you noticed that, and I vote yes as well.
Okay. All right, so that's 6 votes.
6 votes.
Okay, great.
So good,
Good.
thank you,
All right.
Matt. Keep up the good work. I mean,
All right.
this is
And I
another
think you
one
said the
that,
next time you want to see it, please, wait.
I think early June after
Yeah.
town meeting. I think
All right,
that
well, you
would
said
work
early
best.
June.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that works. That
Okay.
works well. A lot should be
Alright.
done by then, and we'll have more updates and.
That'll be great.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a grand opening?
Yeah, so my plan is I do have a street hockey clinic planned for mid-July. So I kind of want to do something around that because I'm gonna have kids there already. Probably get like Ted Phillips involved too because he was able to get us some extra funds for this, and see if we can do a little something with the kids already there.
Okay,
So,
yeah,
Yeah.
we just, Michael and I just came from the grand opening of the fields at Elm Street.
Miller
Nice.
Fields.
And,
Awesome.
Ted was there. Ted.
Oh, good.
It was-
doesn't it look good?
Oh, it looks great.
I know.
I've
Yeah,
heard,
yeah.
I've heard,
Yeah.
I've heard good stuff.
But
Yeah.
Steve was very thankful and went on and on,
Good.
making sure that people understood it was from the community president. Barry and I didn't speak,
Yes.
we were there, but he called out to see if we were there.
Yeah.
Yes,
And a couple people come up to us afterwards, because he had pointed us out and said, oh,
That
these are the
looks
guys from the CPC, so.
yeah, but the project really looks good.
It looks
Awesome.
really good.
They did a great job.
I gotta go
So
now.
so that's great, looking forward.
Cool.
All
Thank you,
right.
guys.
Thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
coming in.
Have a good one.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Next up on our agenda is an update on the Hanson School playground. And we have Dennis, I believe, is gonna give us the speech, or whatever.
Thank you very much for meeting
with us to go over the updates over the Hanson Playground. Since the last time we spoke, one of the things that was pending was we had to look at the drainage of the playground area. So based on the review with DRA, which is the school architect and the playground company, drainage work is not needed in the area. The new playground is designed to be raised a few inches off the ground, and with the surface area that they're using for the playground itself, it has a built-in drainage system in it, so that it prevents pooling, prevents flooding, or anything like that. So right there, that's a $250,000 that was allocated for that. That goes back to the town, which is really good. But Ms. Feeney and I do have a request, and I don't know if it had to go to vote or if it would be within the scope of the job or not. Right next to the playground, there is a parking lot that's made out of dirt, and we would like to request possibly using some of that $250,000 that was allocated for the drainage to update that parking lot, make it into a paved parking lot. Currently, I don't have any estimates of what it would cost, because I want to get your approval first before going forward with that, and then I can meet up with a vendor, get an estimate, then meet up and go over that with you guys.
Well, one of the issues, and this is before you were involved in the project, that was originally talked about way back
Okay.
when we were talking about the project, and the committee's feeling was that because the parking lot is not just for recreational use, it would not qualify for CPA funding.
Okay.
So I think that still holds, unless, I mean,
Could I just say one thing
Sure
on it?
can.
Just because, when we upgrade the playground, that lot will be used a lot by people visiting that playground. And
Yes.
currently, the tow truck has been there numerous times. I don't know if that matters.
I'm
because
sorry, what did you say?
We've had to tow people out of that lot.
Yeah.
Oh,
So who have gone to the playground in its current state. So that was the only reason we talked about, because I knew that before, we asked for everything else paved, that wasn't part of it. But people do park there to go to the playground, so I didn't know if that made the difference.
well, the thinking of the committee, as I remember, was because it wasn't solely for that use, it was
recreation.
also used for regular school
Okay.
activities, people
Yeah.
come and drop off or park all day. So, it,
Okay.
generally recreation projects are natural surfaces anyway,
Mhm.
not hard and fast, but that's, another thing that kind of swayed the committee away from that.
Okay.
I appreciate, no reason you can't
No,
ask.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to ask.
Never hurts to ask.
Um,
Any other comments on that from the
Um,
committee, or?
As far as the drainage, no, and the parking, no. But I just want to let you know that the equipment is going to be delivered end of June. Just a reminder, it was a 26-week lead time on the playground structure itself. So once it gets in at the end of June, then the installation and the process can start work, which is going to still take 4 to 5 weeks. So as long as we're still within that timeline, this playground should be ready to go before the start of the school year.
Great,
That's excellent.
all right.
I mean, as we talked a little bit with Matt before the meeting, and Barry mentioned the Stoughton youth baseball, it's exciting to see some of this stuff finally coming through. I mean, we've been talking about it, and through no fault. I mean,
Yeah.
projects take time. But it's been a couple of years since we
Yeah.
approved some of these things, and to see them come to completion is just, it's a good thing, so we appreciate your efforts.
And I understand that you have a constraint in that you'd rather not work on it while school's and such.
Yeah, exactly. So, but if the playground comes in a little bit earlier and we can get it started sooner, then we will. We'll figure that piece out.
Great, and, let's see, what other questions I had? The design phase is already,
Yeah. And then I can email you the final design of it and everything like
oh,
that.
that'd be
And
great,
yeah.
that'd be great, okay, and I have you down for coming back, we don't have a late July meeting, so early August.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll-
Any other questions from the committee? No? Okay, good. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Update on Elm Street Fields is next. Was Steve gonna join us, or is he gonna?
He was going to, but, all right, we were there.
You wanna expand a little bit on what, he did give us a write-up, right?
He did, yeah.
So the write-up in the meeting, and as Barry had indicated, Barry and I were at the opening day. It was postponed from Saturday in the cold, wet rain to Sunday, which was nice but a little bit windy. And it was first time I've actually ever been to those baseball fields, and it was a lot of people there. I mean, there was one game going on, and then all the kids come marching in, and it was very crowded. They did a great job, and Steve was effusive in his praise and made sure that people understood. There was a nice sign, the scoreboards. There was a second sign over near one of the scoreboards, and we're going to get some pictures of that. But I mean, he really let the people know that this is what they're getting for their community preservation dollars, which I think is great. I think that's a message, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on as well. But I mean, as I just said to Dennis Rego, and it's exciting. It's exciting to see projects coming on board.
Absolutely. I agree. And that did come out.
And it came out really
Really
well.
nice.
It really,
When this town kind of better?
Well, that's what we're here for.
We're doing our taxpayers, town members.
yeah. I mean, sometimes, and I guess coming off a difficult election season where there was a lot of negativity in the town,
That's right.
it's just all the more reason to show them there's a lot of good stuff going on here as well. But no need to beat that. Okay, we have an update on Cape and Reynolds.
Yeah, Rich had, he was the other person who said he wouldn't be able to make
Yeah.
it tonight. So I can give the update to, I mean, it may have gone further than this since the update. This was from last week. What has been completed is that the community garden is in place, the dog park is in place, off-street parking is complete, and landscaping is complete. And I've been down there myself to see it, as has Michael, and again, a very impressive project. What needs to be done going forward, and I don't know if the water's been turned on yet. It hadn't. We were there a couple of
I
weeks
don't
ago.
think so, but I haven't been there this week. I've been down there quite a few times now with my dog and with two dogs. I brought my daughter's dog as well. Not as crowded as I think it will be on certain times.
That's true.
But
Yeah.
there's been people there, and boy, they certainly love it.
They do.
Yeah.
It's getting a lot of use.
There's
The
a
other
lot of
thing-
good things they
I
do.
haven't brought my dog yet.
What did you say?
Dogs. I haven't brought my dog yet.
Oh,
Yeah, you should. It's a good area. They can run around, and there's usually a few tennis balls there that I can
Yeah.
get him. My dog's not big into it. He'll chase it a few times, but then he gets bored and he stops bringing it back.
yeah. I think what's,
I suspect that John's dogs prefer to go down paths and Glen Echo anyway.
Yeah,
well, there's a trail now between Cape and Glen Echo.
That's true.
Well, Jerry McDonald and Juan Fox bushwhacked a trail from Cape and all the way to Glen Echo. So that's,
Yeah, and that's not reflected on the map, and if you go to the Conservation Commission website, the map that they have of Glen Echo trails doesn't reflect that.
wow, that's good.
great.
Slightly on that topic,
Yes.
we are having a factory transition to the signs, which we've also promoted. The Historical Society, two weeks from Sunday, is going to have a program on the historical signs that have already been placed in Stoughton, and the ones that are going to be placed. We will also feature updated maps, because the town has created maps of each area with limited trails. They made a decision not to show extra ones that we've added. At the Historical Society, in brown paper bags, we will be selling the real black market maps of the trails. Including both at Glen Echo, and there are at least 2 trails that don't show up in that map. And also, at Bird Street, there are 3 trails that don't show up in their maps. And they're all trails that people see. On their end, they made a decision they didn't want to confuse people, but in our case, we're giving them kind of the real deal. If you're in there, you're the trails that are there, and if you ever turn, that's the trail that's there. But it also encourages, because we are featuring, making it clear these signs were paid for by CPC, and the new ones are too. So we're hoping to get a few people come out, and that by then we'll have the map that we promised that shows the location of these signs. So
That's really great, Dwight. That's great.
Dwight, did I give you the new logo? I'm sorry, did I send you the new logo to use on the new set of signs?
You probably did, and I'll have to make sure, you have to remind me, because then we'll go stamped on, once we actually get the new images and commentary on the new sign, that would go on
Yeah,
that.
well, it goes through a proof anyway that has to be approved, right?
Pardon?
It goes through a proof process where you have to sign off on the proof?
Yes, so we send them an image and they send it back to me.
Right.
Back and forth.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
Yep, okay, all right. But getting back to Cape and Reynolds, and the dog park is essentially open for public use and people have been using it. We haven't had a grand opening. I think they're kind of caught in between because they probably like to do one grand opening for that and the community gardens. And the community gardens, they're still establishing a system for how they're going to assign spaces and rent them, and who's gonna keep track of that. Dwight, you have your hand up?
Yeah, and in relation to that, and the third map they have is of the trail that comes out of the community gardens dog park and makes its way up towards Glen Echo Boulevard. That is now available too. I didn't see that before today. So that's another trail map that's there.
Oh, great, great. But anyway, that's being worked out. Time is kind of running short because this is the time of year you want people to sign up for community gardens, because planting season is it's pretty much imminent. With that still needs to be worked out, and Rich is dealing with the town manager on that, and hopefully that can be straightened out before too long. And once that's approved, then they can make up the signage for what the rules and regs are at the community gardens. I'm sure they'll also have a handout sheet for people who are renting. There's 37 spaces, so there's 37 people that will be renting a community garden space for the year. And Rich reports the project is 98% complete. He's got the contractor coming back just to do some punch list items, minor things, and he will be here at our next meeting at the beginning of June. For any questions that I may or may not be able to answer?
I do not have any.
No, as Michael said, another great step forward.
It is, and I think it's very popular, and that's, we hear a lot of good things about it.
Okay,
All right,
so now we got some updates on the conservation restrictions for Glen Echo and Atkinson Ave.
yep, I'll take over that.
That's a Barry as well.
Let's see, Wildlands Trust, which both I and James Conlon had contacted back in February, March or so. They said they'd be coming out someday in April, and Scott McFadden, who was there, he's our contact person. I don't know exactly what his position is at Wildlands Trust, land protection maybe. He came out with his board of people who will have to approve whether or not to take on the conservation restrictions, and we visited 3 sites. We started at Benson Road, and they were very impressed by that. We took a long walk through most of the, pretty much all of the property that the town has just acquired. And they did note how it abuts about 50 acres of land that the town was recently given as part of a project connected with the Goddard neighborhood. And so they were favorably impressed with that. And from there, we went to Atkinson Ave, and the purpose of Atkinson Ave, the pieces that we purchased with CPA money, is to allow for an entryway and parking area into the massive acreage that was given to the town by the Goulston family. So it's a little different. We're not protecting that property necessarily for its own sake, as much as to allow access to a larger piece. They seem favorably impressed, favorably inclined, let's say. They haven't made any decisions yet on any of the properties. We're still waiting for them. And the last place we visited was Glen Echo. And question is whether they will accept a recreational conservation restriction on the 6 acre set aside for recreational activities, both active and passive, at Glen Echo. And they are trying to see whether that is within their scope of what their mission is as an organization. So we're waiting to hear back on all three. We have a draft conservation restriction already drawn up for all three. I did those and ran them by town council, and so they may be subject to negotiation if Wildlands Trust is inclined to, to change things here and there within them, and they will have to be approved by the town in addition to Wildlands, and they also go to the state to be approved. So it's not a quick process, as we know already from the open space restriction at Glen Echo. Hopefully it won't be nearly as long as that will took, but hopefully we can get this done within a few months.
That would be nice, then we can close out the projects and
Get that behind us.
stay busy on all the new stuff. Any questions?
I just a point of information, I should know the answer. If there was something in the future done in Glen Echo, like the Frisbee golf thing, would that have to be done within what we designated as recreational or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
All right.
Moving on, we have Benson Road, John.
Well, I just kind of.
You put John down, but you kind of gave the
I kind of gave
update.
the update already.
Yeah, so, anything you'd want to add to that, John?
No, thank you, Barry, for staying all over it.
Yeah, that was my first visit to the site, so it was really my pleasure.
And to Jim.
Yeah, I was with them for the first two visits. I didn't make it to Glen Echo because I had to be somewhere, but it was my first visit to Benson Road. And they I guess Barry or Jerry reached out to Mrs. Crocker.
Oh, John, no, John did.
John did, okay, so we didn't just surprise her and show up.
She knew
I
we
would-
were coming, she was.
If I was surprised at anything, it was how many people from Wildlands Trust came. They had 2 or 3 carloads.
Yeah,
But they were all good people, and they really were impressed, so to back up everything Barry said.
They brought their board.
they did.
Yeah,
Yeah. I guess that makes sense, since they're the ones who are gonna be making the decision.
okay.
Okay.
We did get an update on Atkinson Ave parking from Jerry McDonald,
We
although
did.
I'm not
He
sure
said
how
he
much
didn't know whether he
different.
would be here, but obviously he's not, so, let me just, yeah, I mean, actually, they have started construction. The DPW went in and cleared some area that needed to be cleared. Actually, they cleared a little bit more than would needed to be cleared, but nevertheless, so that's underway. Yeah, as you know, originally the parking area was going to be further in from Route 138, and when they got quotes for what the regrading that would have to have been done up there to make it usable as a parking area, it was well beyond what had been budgeted. So the Conservation Commission came up with the idea of using the existing,
The abandoned roadway.
yeah, there was an auxiliary road for 138. It was a bypass
Yeah,
from the late 60s, I believe, when they were repaving reconstructing 138. And the road is still there. It's still in decent condition. It still has the yellow line down the middle of it, and it's usable. So they're moving it to there, and it may be a little trickier to get access to the Goulston property from that location, but I think it's doable. Jerry seemed to think it was doable.
yeah. Well, earlier that day, Dwight, who just raised his hand, I think was scoping that out. So Dwight, I guess, and that's what you want to tell us about, so.
Yeah, well, they have put a gate in too.
Yeah?
Yes.
It actually is no more complicated getting down there than it would have been above, because above they would have had to get down to this spot and then still figure out how to get in.
Okay.
So the issue is to get in the railroad bed is sunken, and flies what you have to do, but it's, you know, it's not like Stu Sterling and I going in there with some flippers and bingo, we restore an old trail. This is a lot of work.
Yeah.
200 yards of going through pucker brush and a ditch or two that they have to go over. But it's clear what has to be done. It's just to get a path from that parking area, which looks really nice, straight down to connect up to the trail. It's going to start on the other side of a brook, goes in from 138 direction.
Yep, and you mentioned the bridge, and I don't think we got to see.
We didn't go in, no,
Yeah.
because getting there, we would've had to go through the muck that Dwight's talking about.
Right, but.
He had pointed that out to me.
Yeah, well, I'm told that it's very impressive.
People don't want to get their shoes dirty, but
Yeah, I'm told it was an Eagle Scout project, and it's pretty substantial. Is that your?
okay, I didn't know that. So that was an Eagle Scout project?
Yeah.
That's news to me.
Yeah,
Good bridge.
good,
Good.
good, well, that's good, but we'll need a good bridge. And thank you for that.
Right, a year ago, Stu and I had put a pallet in there, and then some other villain had moved the pallet out. Because there are competing people who want to go in there or not, and Jerry has also talked about, I mean, ATVs, they're fighting the battle with ATVs up there. Evidently, some of our, who's been given notice, a letter sent to him that they know that he's doing what he's doing, and he should cease and desist. He has his own access, and ATVs can access those places too, they're too muddy for us to walk through, they just go right through them.
Yeah.
So, but it is definitely purpose. And we have a sign, a historical sign there that will show just the old bridge that was there, and the bypass road that we're now parking on, and put that area in historical context, so. That's part of the new signage that we're going into next year.
John?
John?
Two questions. Does anybody know why Dwight's got an echo?
No, he was breaking up a little bit, though.
And Dwight, do you mind lowering your head so I can see your hat? Very cool.
Joe got his savers for $4, I think.
Like it.
I can hear myself echoing though. Well, I can't now, but I couldn't.
You stop, yeah.
Yeah, it's not echoing now.
Stop it.
No, there it went.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Anything else on Atkinson?
was that the two questions?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Bird Street parking, and I think Jerry had submitted something there as well.
Yep, and that's a little further out, down the road. I mean, Jerry's got a lot of things he's working on now, and I think he'd like to get as much of Atkinson done. You know, but they are going to talk about Bird Street and what their plans are in a future Conservation Commission meeting. So it's still to be, what the exact nature of the project is still to be determined in the specifics, the exact details.
Okay,
And that's pretty much all. I have to say about
that's,
In relation to that, they have discovered, you know, they cleared some brush away from up by the, where the sign is and the old cellar hose, in the process of clearing that brush,
Yeah.
they revealed a really old well that I'd never seen before.
Huh.
As part of the discovery of new things up there that can be shown to people and watch, so, but I assume with that one, the gate, making a decision on the gate, we've had such a mixed use with it, you know, like at Glen Echo, but I don't know that there's any other kind of gate proposed.
Yeah, I don't know what a
Yeah.
better solution would be, frankly. I mean, other than a padlock, which means somebody has to come out twice a day to open it and close it. Okay,
But it would be cheaper and more secure.
well, yeah, I mean, I guess if it gets broken, then it's a problem. But, all right.
okay, any other questions, comments, concerns with project updates? We'll move on to the administrative items. And I don't per se have a chair's report. We've talked about a couple of things that Barry and I have done or attended, and we're gonna talk about a few other things under, actually, I guess the public hearing I had some comments on, but that's listed under the administrator. I do have a treasurer's report, which is, I had prepared, it's really a preview of what I wanna do for the annual town meeting. But I wanted to run it by this committee before we do that, so.
You wanna do that?
We'll skip the chair's report. Yeah, if you don't mind, and we do have an executive session called for here, but it's gonna cause us to go back and forth, so if we could put that off and cover a couple more things,
Yeah, sure.
that probably would make sense.
Okay.
So Barry, if you could call up the treasurer's report? And we'll just quickly flip through that. It's similar to what I've done the last couple of years for town meeting in terms of, it's got some historical context of where we stand before we get into the budget. It's got a couple of new charts that I did want to pay a little bit special attention to.
Okay, there it is.
And as I was putting this together for the annual town meeting, I also had a thought about, this is really the first, although we had the special town meeting in November, this is the first annual town meeting since John Morton left. So if we can flip the page and, so one of the things I wanted to put in here, and I've seen this, I've looked at what other towns do with their annual town meetings, what the committees are doing, and the presentation, and one of the first charts they put up is, here's all the people on the committee that showed town meeting, but then down below what I'm seeing on the screen here, because we know who's here, but also it shows where they're back, where they were appointed by and what their term is, which is a reminder Barry has later in the meeting. A couple of people's terms are up and we got to deal with that, but Barry, can you scroll a little bit more on that to see? So in thinking about John Morton, oh, you know what? You got an older version.
That's the older version?
Okay, and that's fine.
Okay. Let me see if I can find it.
Below this, I put a little box showing all of the previous members of the CPC, and I was actually kind of surprised at how many there were. I found a couple that I didn't know about, and a couple others that. But I wanted to make special note, just a quick note, John Morton, thanking him, and Mark. Mark is gone now. He, two former chairs, but there's a couple of town meeting reps that, you know, Janice Linwall and Joe Scardino. And then a rundown of some of the other people there. And what I found referenced that Stan Zoll was at one time on the committee. I think Deb Sauvigny was on the committee. And so I just put everybody's name on the bottom. So it'll be part of the package they have. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but just kind of an acknowledgement for all of us, but for them as well. That's the only page that's changed in here, Barry. So we can just move on.
Okay.
So then we've got this, you know, pretty much my standard report. The history from 2009 to 2024, a snapshot of the projects in process. Oh, stay on that slide here. The projects in process, then we'll walk through the budget. The appendix has some of the detailed budget schedules. I won't go through those, but they're in the package so that if people will have it, as well as us. Okay, next page, Barry. So the CPA, the history. One of the comments I threw in here, just, it's been 15 years now, or 16, I guess. It was approved on 2008 and adopted effective fiscal year 2009. I was not involved back then. I was living here in town, but obviously, and I think this was the second go-around. I think we failed the first year.
Right.
Made it the second year, but we only made it with 51% vote. So, I mean, it was a tight vote. And I think that leads up to some of what we just talked about. Now we can begin to really talk about the benefits the town has gotten for what was once a contentious close vote. But total revenue from 2009 to 2024 is 19.4 million. Most of it comes directly from the local surcharge, 10.9 million. We've borrowed 4.3 million, no change in that number from a year ago. State match is showing at 2.9 million because it's as of June 30th, 2024. The match we receive for fiscal year 2024 doesn't hit the books until November of 2025, but we're well over $3 million in going, which of course is one of the biggest benefits we have of this. And then the other is all the interest income and other things that have hit, but $1.2 million. And you go in, the next slide is the expenditures. We've spent 10.9 million, 3.7 million of it on recreation, 2.7 million on historic, $1.9 million in paying back the bonds that we've taken out. We're now up to $1.3 million in open space, $700,000 in interest. We're still at only $400,000 on community housing because we haven't spent the money that was approved last year, but that number's obviously going to jump up tremendously in the next couple of years. And then the administrative other is a very small piece, less than $200,000 in 15 years.
That's it.
And so this is a new slide. I'm sorry, was there a question there? Okay. The reserve fund balance is as of June 30th, 2024, and these numbers come right off the CP2 that's filed. We've talked about it when we talked about the CP2, but I hadn't put it in a slide like this, but what we're showing is, and essentially, we just saw that we had $19.5 million of revenue, including the borrowings. We spent almost 11 million, so guess what? We have $8.4 million left over. Of that $8.4 million, $4.3 million is reserved for expenditures, and that's predominantly projects that are approved that are still in progress or that have finished but they haven't been formally closed out. That's the difference between what the approval. So, for example, there's $1.3 million on Hebrew Senior Life, $250,000 for father bills, $950,000 for the playground. That money we'll start seeing in big globs this year, and we'll see that where that money is as
And
well.
about 400,000 for the Halloran.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of money out there. It seems like a big number, but the important thing is that money is reserved, so it's not available to us to spend because it's already been appropriated for projects. So the undesignated fund has almost $2 million in it. That money is available to us and is part of the budget. We'll see that as again. And then special purposes, it's a reserve account, the $388,000. It's really the interest for the FY 2025. It's the debt service for fiscal year 2025. Happens to be the same number, so I'm guessing that they're connected. And then the reserves for the individual categories, community housing, historic resources, open space, and then a small amount of money that's encumbered on the town's books. But it's really just accounting for that $8.4 million, the difference between revenues and expenditures. I thought it was a good chart to show up there, and it ties back to the CP2. So, next slide. Okay, this is the chart where we look at all the time. This is the projects that are in process. And worth noting, we don't need to talk about the projects, but if you notice that the sum of funds available, the bottom right-hand corner, is $4.2 million. It's essentially the same $4.3 million we saw in the other chart. They're not cut exactly. There are projects that I don't consider in progress. They've been finished, but we haven't formally signed them off at town meeting. And there's a timing difference that this includes some of the money that was spent in fiscal year 2025, and the other chart cutoff is June 30th, 2024. So, but I thought it was good that we could kind of show that this is in fact the same money we're talking about, tying into the town's books. So, but yeah, there's 15 projects and not a lot of activity yet, because this is also a couple months ago. We're still waiting for some updates from the town for fiscal year 2025 spending. But again, this is a chart we talk about and we'll talk about in future meetings as we get updates on the projects. So then the budget, we simplified the budget, and this committee's actually gone over this, I think, a couple times already, but we're really only budgeting a local surcharge and a state match. And that's based on some advice that Tom and Biz got from the Department of Revenue, that we don't need to budget those other items. Doesn't change anything. That money's still going to come in, the interest money and the little odds and ends, but So we get $1.8 million surcharge, a modest $150,000, so basically 15% match that comes based on the advice from the state. Hopefully that they'll find something, but given the state finances, that's what it is. Next slide, Gary, is really the expenditures, the funding sources. So again, we can see that undesignated fund, which is showing in this chart as $6.8 million, is really the same $4 million we looked at, plus the $2 million in the undesignated fund. So those two get combined on the budget, which is part of the reason I broke it out earlier, is to show what it's made up of. And then we have the community housing. These are the reserves. This is the top line of the budget that we've always seen. You have X amount of money in your undesignated fund, not all of which is available, and then you have money in each of the three reserves that is available for us to spend. So again, the difference, this community housing at 839, that's projecting what it's going to be at the end of fiscal year 2025, whereas on the earlier slide we looked at what it was in 2024. And I'll show you how we got there, but John, question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that open space, reserve is so small because of all the recreation stuff we're doing, right?
Well, it's small because every year we've been paying the debt service for Glen Echo out of that account. A lot of the recreation has been charged to the undesignated fund because the open space just never got a chance to build up like the other accounts because we early on bought Glen Echo and started paying that debt service. So every year that debt service has hit this account.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that there isn't that money available for open space, because anything in undesignated can be used for open space.
Right.
It's just that the money management dictates that you spend your most restricted funds first, whichever of the three reserve funds it's from.
Yeah, it's good to have money in these restricted funds, but we have a lot more flexibility with the money that's in the undesignated fund. I mean, community housing is so high because of we haven't had a lot of projects.
Right. But that will change.
That will
We
change.
have spent a lot of money, a lot of cash on recreation facilities.
Correct.
And everything from recreation has been in,
That's been kind of a great
But to John's point, you don't get 4 category reserves because the initial CPA legislation only designated 3, and then a couple of years later the state broke out recreation as a separate category, but they didn't backtrack it to the reserve piece. So there were only 3 reserve accounts. And you do get a mix of the open space. It's just that open space has largely been the debt service on Glen Echo, the true spending there, so. Dwight?
But, just in the context of what I see and what I think John is commenting on, that recently, you get a recreation proposal every year.
Yeah?
It's fairly hefty, and we tended to okay them. So that whatever would have been a combination of open space and recreation has been recreation a lot in the last 5 or 6 years, and that's my sense.
Yeah, which if you back up a slide, that's what you see when we look at, was it 1 or 2 slides where we had the spending? That recreation spending is much higher than open space, 3.7 million.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, likely to continue, short of us, we made a couple new acquisitions, including Benson Road, but we can predict there will always be a new recreational need, given our competent, but ambitious, there's stuff out there that needs to be done. So that's, I don't have anything other than that insight at the moment, but at some point, the resource that goes for buying a, big space of land, which has been out there, could come up against, us having a new,
Playground.
yeah. But that's, just nothing we can do about just commenting. on
Yeah.
how we are.
And then for expenditures this year, we have the two proposed articles, which the town hall one is going to hit the open space account. Well, it's gonna hit the open space category. It obviously can't hit the account because there's not enough money in the account to pay for it. So it will have to come out of the undesignated fund, but it will show up as open space spending. Debt service this year is down. We saw that it was.
Michael, does it first drain the open space account?
No, it doesn't, because we didn't split it. We have it, because of the amount it is, it all comes out of undesignated.
I think we've tried not to split things because of it really mucks up the accounting.
Yeah.
Especially because it drags out over several years, although I think that the town hall project should pretty much be in 2026, because we want to get it done, I assume, for the 300th.
Right. Yeah, but then when it's done, if there's money left over, which account do you put it back to? And, I mean, that's one of the considerations, but.
And we will continue to use the open space reserve for the Glen Echo, which we have a few years left to pay, in any smaller projects that come in. But the debt service, you can see, we saw that it was $388,000 on the earlier slide for fiscal year 2025. It goes down each year because we've paid off more and more of the principal. And of course, the administrative is still, we're budgeting 5%, which is $58,000. We won't spend anywhere near that, more than likely, but if we can just flip. So then the appendix, which I don't necessarily want to go through, but can we just scroll through them? I won't necessarily talk to them much.
Yep.
The first one is going to be just this is the old format of the budget, showing it the way Bill Rowe always had it. So just to keep that continuity in terms of format, but it's a very detailed chart to put up in front of town meetings, so I don't want to get into it. But same data, it's just a detailed breakdown of what we saw on the earlier side. This category roll forward is the one I wanted to look at. And you can see where I took the ending balance for each of the category reserves going across the page and the undesignated fund as of June 30th, 2024. And I said, okay, what do we think the debt service is going to be in 2025? That's a number we know.
From Glen Echo.
Well, for Glen Echo is all in open space, but there's also some in historic preservation, and actually it's 345,000. So that 388 did match something. I'll have to figure that out. But then I load in the expenditures, and at this point I don't know how the total expenditures are going to be for fiscal year 2025, but I threw in 600,000. We had 250,000 as of like mid-year, and I think with some of the activity going on in the springtime that we'll get up to a higher number, so I projected 600,000. The budgeted annual reserve is a set number at the beginning of the year, and then the actual reservations that we set aside at last year's town meeting, and that gives me the new balance of my starting point for the FY26 budget. So it's just showing us how we went from one set of numbers and roll forward for the next 2 years. This was another new chart. This is probably more useful to work with Biz on. Again, I'm not going to go through that kind of detail with the town meeting, but I did want this committee to kind of see and understand how we got from 1 year's number looking out 2 years ahead to how we get to those numbers. That's all.
There's your 330,000. It's projected debt service for next year.
Yeah. It was the 388 that threw me, because now I'm saying it's 345. That 388 is one of the numbers I've asked Biz to give me the backup for. It coincidentally, and I think what it is, that actually matched 2024's debt service, not 2025. So it went from 388 to 345, or whatever the number is. But I haven't gotten that backup from Biz yet to tie into the number. It just coincidentally looks like it could be something, but I'm not going to go there on town meeting. I'm just going to show the number. And I wanted this committee to understand how we went from the end of 2024 through 2025 into the budget of 2026. Because it's not really, and I'm going to say it, it's not rocket science. You put it down on paper and you just, hey, this is what we started with, this is what we expect to happen, and this is what we're going to end with. I mean, it's like a household budget that we all do, so. And I think that's it. If you scroll, Barry, I don't think there's
We are at, no, there's more. Oh, this is just the budget again.
this is just the
Same
budget
thing again.
detail, and then the debt. This is the debt service by project, part of the budget detail, and then the debt schedule is in the back, but we're not gonna go through those. Those are the kind of charts that are tough even in a small group to put up on a screen and expect anyone to follow.
All right, the end.
The end. And you'll notice I put our logo, because I love our logo, nice and colorful. Looks great when it's up there
It
at the
does.
front of the auditorium at Town Hall. Looks great on the banners we saw at the Elm Street Fields and
Yeah.
everywhere else.
Yeah, if I could, what happened, just a little backstory, I got an email from Steve Barton saying, do you have a template for the sign that you want us to put up, giving credit to the CPA fund? And I said, no, but I can make one. So I put it together in about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes and sent it to him, and that's what he used. And if I can find it quickly, I can show you what it looks like. There it is. Come on. Okay, let me just put that up on the screen. All right, so there you go. And that's
Very nice.
yeah, and that's what Steve used. There were some banners, some temporary banners all around the site at Elm Street. I'm asking him to make a permanent version with the funds that he has left in his account. All right.
Okay.
You're gonna have a flying baseball on it.
Right, so it's appropriate for the project itself.
Okay, Brad, do you want to run through the items under administrators?
Yeah, just briefly, let me bring up a chart that will show, on one page. Hang on a moment.
Oh, we're bummed he has left the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully she'll get back in, but we still have a quorum, so. Nobody else leave. It's a problem if anybody else leaves.
Hang on just a moment and see if I can find it. Here it is. And this was in your packet. Let me just put it up on the screen. The numbers may be too small. We'll see. That's tough to read, but let me, I can zoom in on what I'm gonna be covering, which is the projects that we have for approval. Of course, we have our budget. The Glen Echo Pavilion and Benches that Eric Coleman brought to us. Town Hall Pocket Parks that Mark Tisdale and Craig Horsfall are,
Now, you're still showing that as recreation. I thought we had agreed that was open space. but-
I'll have to check on
Yeah.
that. Hold on, let me make a note. Okay. Payment of the band, which was something that Biz asked us to do as an article. Rescissions and closeouts. Do we have any rescissions? Yeah, we have Glen Echo, a rescission of $73,500. That's the original acquisition of Glen Echo. And the closeouts, we didn't get through all of them. We only got as far as the Cedar Hill tee boxes. So the ones on the four on the bottom, those will come up at probably the next town meeting in the fall.
Yeah.
But we have the top 6 on the town meeting warrant for next week. So the new projects are basically the pavilion and benches and the town hall pocket parks. We approved didn't mean to go that far. We approved the town hall for $820,000 and Glen Echo for $180,000, and coincidentally, those two together equal exactly $1 million.
Yeah.
So those are and the budget, basically what we'll be pushing for at town meeting. I'm not sure what night it's going to come up, but the articles are numbered in the 30s, as you can see. The town hall pocket parks will come up before our budget, because that's a hybrid project. It's being paid for both out of the general fund and the CPA fund, so that's going to go before we have our CPA budget. And the CPA budget will come up, and then Glen Echo. So,
Do you know what, White, Gary, do you know what night it'll be?
no, I mean, it depends how quickly things go, or I should say how slowly things go. Like I said, it's in the 30s. What's the total number of articles this year?
I don't know.
I don't know. The other thing is that there's a special town meeting within the annual, which will be the first thing on the agenda on next Monday. So that has to be gone through. There are, I don't know, about roughly eight articles, I think, on that. So, it's going to be sometime later in May. It's not going to be the first week of May before this comes up.
Good thing it's not the first night, because I'm not gonna be around.
Yeah, and if it comes up, I would think that it may not even come up in the, I don't know.
First week, yeah.
It won't come up in the first week. It may come up in the Wednesday of the second week. I don't know.
I was just reading in my Falmouth Enterprise, they had their town meeting a couple of weeks ago, 42 articles, one night. It's like, boy, I know a lot of people in Stoughton that would be so happy if we could pull that off.
All right.
Who do we have that's town meeting members now on the committee?
You and
Bob Desmond, I think.
Bob, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it. And
Rich Gary?
I don't think Rich is a town meeting rep.
I don't think he is.
No. All right. If we're good with that, the next thing I wanted to mention was we need to file a historic preservation restriction on the railroad building that was purchased with CPA funds. The last time we addressed this, we had made an extension to, it was to have, the deadline was last June 30th, so we decided to extend it a year to this June 30th. We're not going to meet that deadline, so I'm asking that we extend it for another year.
Which I think we kind of need to do it, because
Yeah, we
this
need to
has
do
to be
it.
done at some
Yeah.
point.
Right.
And I know the other thing we didn't mention, Barry, I think since the last meeting, you and I had met with Tom and Paul Jaffoon.
Yes.
We kind of missed that on the chair's report in the earlier comments. We went over and met at the train station, and they walked us through where they stand with all that. And Tom is working with the state to get his hands on the $2 million.
It was approved, it just isn't released.
Right. And it's getting exciting that
Right.
once they cut that check, then we're gonna be able to go in and do some
Do
really
some
nice
stuff.
things there.
Yeah. It's-
That's another one that even though that money isn't CPC money, I still wanna see some promotion going on, cause it was CPC money that paid for it, and CPC money that did a lot of the work on the outside of it,
Right.
and so we've been a big part of this town's, and to finally see it being used,
Yeah.
'cause
Yeah.
that's what you see on the social media when people are upset about town spending money, is that all this money they see spent on a building that just is sitting there, no one's using it.
Right, well, this is a Mass Works grant from the
Yeah.
state, and it will be solely for the interior of the building.
Yeah. So there is good stuff going on there, so we'll need a motion to extend that?
Yeah, let me just put it up on the screen. This is my, I think this is it. Yep,
And this was in the packet that
it was
went
in
out.
the packet. It's a formal request to extend it another year.
I so move.
Thank you, Dwight.
And a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Larice?
Yes.
Dwight?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So that's,
Okay, now, 5? 5 members on that?
5, yeah,
Okay.
all the Bumneys.
Yep.
Up back on.
Okay. Yeah, right, the update in the railroad depot, you just did.
We just kinda did it, yeah.
Okay. Public, well, 2 things. One, look, I'll do the quicker one first. Don and Bob Desmond, your terms expire as of June 30th, so I'd like you both to continue if you'd like to continue, and that means going back to your the Housing Authority, Bob going back to the SRA and getting them to vote to recommend you, and then sending an email to the town clerk that that's been done and getting sworn in for another 3-year term. Okay, and an update on the public hearing. Next month, because we've changed our schedule, we're doing things that make sense finally. We're having a public hearing before the applications for projects are due, and enough time to get them done. So that will be our next meeting, June 4th. And what I'd like people on the committee to do, especially if you're one of the key people who, not that everyone isn't important, but we have 4 categories. And Larice is representing recreation, John is representing open space, Don is representing housing, and Dwight is representing historic. And what I was thinking of doing, and actually this was Michael's idea, is to ask, for example, to see if Dave Lambert is interested in making a presentation to us regarding historic.
Well, Bert, can we jump over to the ad that we put together? The ad you put together?
Yeah.
Because one of the things is, as I've looked at other CPC public hearings across the state, one of the things I really liked is a couple of them talked about, they advertised the public hearing, not just the legal notice, but they actually put an ad out in the suburban shop or whatever we want to do with it. But they say to the people, listen, we're having a meeting, and the purpose of the meeting is to get public input as to what we're doing and what you see as the needs, because that way we can work it into our plans, which is kind of why I wanted to move this meeting up into June, was to start collecting that input and responding to it.
Okay.
So we kind of copied an ad from, was it West Tisbury or Tisbury? I forget even what town. I
Yeah,
looked
we
at a
didn't
couple
copy it,
different ones.
we used it as a.
We used it as a basis.
Hang on, let me get it. I'm rapidly running out of power on my computer because I forgot my power cord, but we'll get through it, we're almost there. Okay. All right.
So again, starting with our logo up at the top
There it is.
and just announcing the meeting. And as you scroll down, telling them,
And I have reserved the Great Hall, that is, will be available.
hitting them up, letting them know in the ad and before the public hearing, and we'll repeat it at the public hearing, that the deadline, August 15th and September 15th. This is when we got to get the ball rolling if we want to be done in December for the town to put together the warrant book. We're asking residents, organizations, and other interested parties are encouraged to pursue CPA funding for the projects. I mean, it's just...
And this ad will go in the Suburban Shopper twice and in the Town Crier. There is a legal ad, which is boilerplate, which is boring as heck, and
Yeah,
that will go in the Enterprise, but this is the ad that, and nobody will read it.
right. But this is just, again, trying to play into this whole thing of let's get some excitement in the community, hopefully, and hopefully it'll work. I mean, we got a little bit because we did talk to a couple people at the baseball field the other day that came up and said, "Hey, we got our organization." It's like, listen, come to the public hearing, make your case.
Question.
So then the other little agenda type thing, because I think that feeds into where you were going here, and I wanted to kind of set the background of the purpose of the public hearing is really to get public input. It's not just for us to tell them what we've done.
Right.
It's really to get them to tell us what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that with the initial CPA plan many years ago and with the update a couple of years ago. And this is just kind of a constant funneling back to us as a committee what the community wants us to work on. And that's really what we should be focused on the public hearing. So we kind of put a little schedule together here that just a simplified version of saying, okay, we're going to open the public hearing, we're going to give a few updates on ongoing projects. I mean, I think Tom had said he would come to the meeting.
Yeah, these would be even if we weren't holding a public hearing, these would have been our regularly scheduled project updates.
So we'll, get a little talk on the depot, get a little talk on Father Bill Mainspring. You just show the public what's going on.
right.
And hear it, ideally, I'd love them to hear it from some of the people, the applicants, not just from the committee. And that's where the discussion came up of, geez, and I don't know, Dwight, this may be too short term for Dave, but to have someone like a Dave talk about the historical preservation needs of the town.
That's true.
But Dwight could do it just as admirably, I think, and
Yeah.
I wanted to throw the idea out there for you.
It's up, I think, Dwight, it's up to you. I mean, if you wanna bring Dave in on it, or if you wanna do it yourself.
you-
Dave and I will be together at this meeting on the sign.
Yep.
Sometimes he's out of town a lot.
Yeah, no, I know, understood.
So, I mean, I have nothing against him doing it. If I talk to him and he says, yeah, I can do that, I'll let him do it. If he can't, I'll do it.
Yeah,
Okay. And item number 2 is what I spoke about of the 4 categories, and obviously Dwight and or Dave on historic preservation, John doing his open space, Clarice and or Matt doing recreation, and Dawn and or Colleen, I haven't asked her. But
and again, on that number 1 piece, the presentation is coming from, if it's coming from you, Larice, it's you as a recreation, not you as a CPC person.
Right, right.
And you just, brief, we're not trying to drag this into long, drawn-out presentations, because
Right.
we'll be there all night, but
Right.
just
Yeah.
kind of get the two-way conversation going. This is what's going on, this is what we need.
Right.
Then we'll hear from some of the public as well, so.
And then number 3 is public input, potential projects. We did hear from someone when we were at the Elm Street Fields opening who is thinking of applying to us for funding. So I said, great, if you can make it on June 4th, that would be an excellent time to at least introduce it,
Right.
even if you don't have any of the details ready. And then general questions, just, people have questions about what we do, what the CPA does, what it covers, what it doesn't cover. What we've done lately, and I think people can see what we've done lately more and more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And especially, now that the weather is turning good and
But it also
That's right.
doesn't cease to amaze me on what you do see on social media, how often people will kick in and have no idea that the
I
CPC
know.
did it.
Right, right.
When questions were coming up about the dog park,
Yes.
when things are coming up about Halloran Park, and
Right.
people just don't know what it is.
That's right.
So this is our opportunity. And tell them and tell them again and then tell them a third time.
Mhm.
It's maybe a little idealistic, but I think it's a great opportunity for us to kind of present it to them, so. Just wanted to get feedback from the committee on that plan.
Yep, Dwight has his hand up.
Yeah, I think it's fine, but for social media, so many people know so little about so much. You can't judge anything by the comments that people make.
Understood. I feel bad for anybody who relies on social media for their source of news and information,
That's for
because
sure.
what's there is usually not right, but.
Mm-hmm.
But that thought, when I see people just,
Even the excessive.
go ahead.
The accessibility are hard to, because they even take this thing about the trash bag. Not until it comes out kind of on social media, Stoughton enthusiasts, whatever, that people start responding to it. So you really, just it's an obvious two-edged thing where people don't know much, but they learn a little, and you get a lot of spewing of information, misinformation, but how else to hash it out, given the context of what people listen to? I think
But I think that, again, is part of what we're trying to do with the public hearing.
Right.
Is that's our forum to try to hash it out and get people in. I don't have any great aspirations that we're gonna get a sellout crowd at the Great Hall, but, the more people we get, little by little, the word's getting out there, so. We can only do what we can do. John? John has his hand raised?
Yeah, just wondering about advertising it on, like, Stoughton Enthusiast or something like that.
Yeah, I would, the ad that's gonna go into Suburban Shopping could easily be put up on Stoughton News, Stoughten
Right,
Enthusiasts.
It might do better
Yeah.
Not look like an ad.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get it in Roberta's little town crier thing, but we can also then put it out ourselves and
Right.
repeat it every week.
Good idea. Michael, good idea with town crier.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
well,
because there are restrictions about how we have to, advertise in the newspaper, blah, 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 circulation.
Right.
In terms of being read in the town of Stoughton, I think that town shop or whatever it is
Well-
has a lot more, gets to a lot more people. than
Exactly.
drive any paper.
the legal notice is the one that has to meet those restrictions, and Barry's got that as well. That's gonna be the same notice that we do every year, just a little legal notice that
Right.
typically in small print that people don't pay a lot of attention to. The whole idea here was let's hit them
Right.
with something that might get their attention.
That's true.
And I big believer with our colorful logo at the top, we're gonna catch some eyes on it.
That's true.
So, and if they're hearing it,
Can we make
it's,
sure we get it into those social media sites though?
yeah,
Stoughton
I'm
enthusiast.
not a big social media guy, but
No, I think if you want, that would be the last thing, if you're really serious about getting people to show up, turn out, or at least so they'll know that it's happening. I think Stoughton enthusiasts and Stoughton news you gotta go with.
yeah. So what we probably should do is take a vote to authorize Barry, because he's gonna have to spend some money to do some of the advertising, but then also to,
Well, we've already
we've already approved, yeah, you already told me that.
We've already approved the money for the
we
advertising.
already did?
Yes,
Yeah, I think Barry was way ahead of us on that. He made sure.
yes.
But so, yeah, we're good, because it doesn't cost anything to get in the Stoughton News and Enthusiasts. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of getting on the site and getting to
Right.
the admin and say, hey, can you post this? And I think they will, because it's a good thing. Okay, any other questions comments on public hearing?
Okay,
Obviously, that'll be part of our agenda, because we'll have our regular meeting following. It's kind of public hearing within our regular meeting, so.
right.
Oh, the one other thing I did want to say to that, if possible, I think it would be great if we could get a physical presence at town hall that night from the committee. The more of us that can be there for that meeting, because it's a good show for the public. And I've asked Barry to follow up several times to make sure, because I remember sitting there last year and feeling at the beginning of the meeting that we might not even make a quorum for a public hearing, and that would be horrible. I mean, if something comes up and we can't make a quorum, then we gotta cancel the meeting, but to do that after people have showed up for the public hearing just would have been embarrassing.
Yeah.
But we pulled it off, and I thought we had a good one. I thought we got some good input last year from the public, and I just wanna build on that, so.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right, my laptop is about to,
Expired.
the battery's about to go, I didn't take my,
okay,
charge
so
cord.
Barry, then why don't we go back to, I asked Barry to put an executive session here, really to talk about Barry.
Right,
And his salary, I guess, is
Right.
really the key, but
so I'm gonna just.
he
give
had a couple comments he wanted to make, I
There
think, or,
goes my, my laptop just went out.
Oh, did.
Yep.
well, but you put.
Can you hear me through Michael's?
I can put the mic back on, yeah.
All right.
Okay, Barry, talk and see if,
Very supposed
Okay, can you hear me?
can you hear?
you.
Okay. All right, I guess mine just shows a frozen screen.
Well, Barry, okay, Barry wanted to comment, and then we'll go into
Then you go
executive
to-
session.
right, right.
Because when we go into executive session, John is gonna cut out the smack feed.
Right, okay. Yeah, I mean, we haven't really had a procedure for me to deal with raises. We did originally when I was hired. I was given a sheet of step raises that were supposed to go into effect automatically every year. They discontinued that around 2018, 2019. Apparently, they were saying the town couldn't afford it. I probably should have questioned it, given that the source of funding is different than everybody else, but I didn't really have a person to go to and say, I would like a raise, other than to go to HR or Human Resources and say what's going on for this year, and that, you know, I'm not at the top of their list for priorities, let's say, and they're not set up to manage me the way this committee is. And this committee knows what I do better than anybody else. Currently, I make $30.77 an hour, which is not bad, but if the schedule I had been given when I was hired in 2016 had been in effect, I would be making $35.41 an hour. I haven't had a raise since 2021. I've had only 2 raises since 2019. So what I'm asking for is a $2 an hour raise. I think it's more than reasonable. And, you know, I can go through what I've accomplished and what value I bring to the committee, but I don't think I have to.
I will say that goes
I was
without
just gonna
saying.
say.
But, so when Barry first asked me about this, I told him I felt like I was remiss, because I was thinking along the same lines that I've been chair since last summer, and it's like, okay, this is something we really should deal with every year. And even though I've been treasurer all this time, I've never been involved in anything with Barry's salary. So it kind of fit perfect timing into it. And my suggestion to him was, why don't we put it on the agenda? I says, we can put it into an executive session because it is personnel and it meets the criteria.
Michael, we lost you.
Okay, can you hear me? Why did we lose me?
Yes.
Okay. It obviously fits the criteria for an executive session, and I was gonna ask Barry to leave the room and we could have an open discussion. I don't expect there's a real need for that, but just to be fair to everybody on the committee
So the committee will vote to go into executive session.
yeah, so,
And just to go back to the emails I sent out, you're gonna log in on a different Google Meet than what you're in now for the executive session, and then
yeah,
come back.
because otherwise it's on the recording, and when we post the recording, then again, the executive session isn't really an executive session if you post it on SMAC or post it on the town website.
Right.
So, is everybody,
Where do we find that other link?
okay, there was an email that Barry had sent
I
out.
sent it out recently.
This week, it was, let's see.
I think the subject matter was linked for executive session.
Yeah, on 4/28, Barry sent out a note that said executive session link.
Okay.
And now your machine cut out,
My machine is dead.
but the meeting didn't die, and you
No.
opened the meeting, so the meeting is still there.
Yes, and hopefully it's still recording.
Did you pass the host on to Michael?
No, I signed into the meeting, and so,
Yeah, but he can transfer the host to you.
well, he didn't, because it just died.
It just died on me.
Wow.
So we'll have to see.
Well,
But our intent was to open up an executive session under a different meeting thing, and we can then do our business, and if we can't get back into the open session, then we will just end it in executive session.
Okay.
But,
I move that we go to executive.
hang on one second, Dwight, because the one thing, we did have one more important item on the agenda, which was the approval of minutes from January 8th, February 5th, and March 5th. I mean, that's 3 months' worth of minutes that have gone out over the last couple of months, and I'd love to be able to approve them. I've gone through them. They were all in their typically good shape. I don't know if everybody else has had a chance. If not, we can put it off, but if people have looked at it and feel comfortable, then I'd like to at least go through, entertain a motion to approve those 3 sets of minutes.
I'd make a motion, we approve them.
Second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Luis,
Yes.
Dwight,
Yes.
John,
Yeah.
Dawn,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So we'll knock that off. And if we can't get back in, we'll just adjourn from the executive session. Barry will be outside. We'll talk to him
You
anyway.
need to take a vote to go into
Yeah,
executive session.
so now we'll enter, Dwight made a motion
Yep.
to go into executive session. The chair finds the executive session is appropriate because it involves personnel matters.
And who's the
And
second?
who was the second? Did we get a second?
Second.
John, yeah, I cut him off before we
Yeah.
get the second. Any discussion, concern? We'll take a vote. Larice?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Dwight?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.